Hello, and welcome to today's story. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more. The story you're about to hear is based on accounts and rumors. Its full truth can't be confirmed. Now sit back, relax, and let's dive right in. I wasn't looking for anything. I was taking out the trash. It was 1:13 a.m. because the microwave clock always sticks at 13 when I open the door, and the bag split on my shoes, so I swore at myself, and the alley behind my building smelled like hot pennies, even though it was November. That's how ordinary it was right up until I looked up. At first I thought it was a plane angling low over the city, a triangle of lights moving too slow. But the lights didn't blink. They rolled like three beads on a string, and the distance between them seemed to stretch and compress as if the sky were elastic. It wasn't high either. I could have hit it with a decent slingshot, if that makes any sense. Then the alley went colder. The hair on my arms stood up under my hoodie, and every stray cat sound cut off at once, like someone pressed mute on the whole neighborhood. The triangle slid sideways, stopped, and then folded into a single point that hissed, like feedback from old speakers. The point hung there, wrong in the sky, the way a dead pixel is wrong on a screen. Then it zipped up and vanished. I stood there with a tide of garbage juice soaking into my sock and told myself I'd seen a drone swarm, or one of those advertising things, or literally anything else. Inside, I washed my foot in the sink and did what anyone does now when they're unsure if they're going crazy. I posted online. I put a short thing up. Weird lights over my city. Anyone else see? And attached a sketchy doodle I made in notes, 3 dots, then 1. I hit post, watched it spin, and tried to decide if I wanted it to go viral or not. My phone froze on the spinning wheel. The screen flickered, and I saw my lock screen, then my home screen, then a camera view of my own living room from an angle my phone couldn't physically see. The image jittered, stretched, collapsed into a field of static, and then the phone just sighed. That's the only way I can describe the sound. It was like someone exhaling right next to my ear through teeth. I yanked the charger out, and the screen went black like a closing eye. I slept badly. You know that buzz fluorescent lights make when they're about to die. I kept hearing it in the walls. When I did dream, I dreamed about knocking. 3 slow knocks, then a pause, then a fourth like an afterthought. In the morning, my post had a few replies. Most were jokes. One person DM'd me. People in our neighborhood always see stuff over the river. Don't talk to them if they come, I messaged back. Who? They didn't respond. That day, my phone behaved like an animal that's learned a trick and won't stop doing it. I'd try to play music, static, try to call my sister, call connects. Then a long wet breathing like something asleep with its mouth open. I said, hello, and heard myself say, hello, back a half second later. Like I was on a delay with my own voice. When I hung up, the call timer kept counting. I powered the phone off, and the black screen reflected me in that stretched, fish-eye way, except the reflection blinked and I didn't. By 5 p.m., I was ready to laugh it off. I worked from home that day and didn't leave the apartment. I made noodles. The microwave clock said 5:13. The sun sank behind the apartments across the street. When the knock came, it came in that same rhythm from my dream. 3 slow, measured taps, pause. A fourth, slightly off time. Not loud, barely polite, the kind of knock that assumes you're already on your way. I looked through the peephole and saw 2 men on the landing. They wore black suits. Not the kind from a department store. The fabric had no texture, no sheen, like someone had colored them in with a marker. White shirts, black ties. The taller one was bald, the shorter had a hat, an old-fashioned trilby in a style nobody wears here, unless they're being ironic. They were smiling. That's what struck me first. Both of them smiled as if they'd just remembered smiling was a thing people do. When I opened the door, the taller one leaned forward a fraction, as if he'd been on pause and I'd pressed play. "Good evening," he said. The words were right, but the timing was off, a half beat after his mouth moved. His voice had the rounded edges of a recording played on cheap speakers. The shorter one tilted his head like a bird learning a new trick. "Can we come in?" the taller one asked. I put my hand on the edge of the door and didn't move it. "What is this about?" "Of course," he said and smiled. "We understand you had a sighting?" He didn't say UFO or lights. He said sighting, like a doctor says symptom. His skin looked too tight across his cheekbones, as if it had been stretched and pinned down just beyond the hairline. His lips were the wrong shade, like a colorist had selected mouth from a palette and got the slider a few ticks too far toward gray. "I saw something weird," I said, and hated how small my voice sounded. The shorter one's smile widened, showing a row of teeth as regular and featureless as piano keys. "We'd love to ask you some questions about your memory." "My memory?" "Yes," the taller one said, still smiling. "Specifically your recall of dreams and your dissemination practices." "My what?" "Who did you tell?" The shorter one translated, a beat too late. "I posted about it online," I said, because lying to them felt like lying to a mirror. They both nodded slowly in sync, like they were listening to the same metronome inside their heads. "Did you tell anyone else?" the taller one asked. "Your family, your neighbors, the woman upstairs who leaves on her TV all night?" No. "And how would we what?" the shorter one asked, without a question mark at the end. They didn't blink, kept waiting for them to, and they didn't. The taller one's eyes were a dark, glossy brown, as flat as the center of an old vinyl record. The shorters were lighter, almost yellow. When they looked at me, I felt like a pinned specimen. "Can we come in?" the taller repeated, except this time the question sounded like a statement. "I don't think so." The shorter one breathed in an impressed little sigh, as if I'd told a joke he recognized from a book about jokes. His smile didn't move. "We appreciate your cooperation," he said. "We will be brief." I said. They both turned their heads toward the hallway behind me, as if someone had called their names from somewhere deep in my apartment. The taller one's nostrils flared, not like smelling, more like tasting the air. "Were you asleep last night at 1:13 a.m.? he asked. "No," I said. "I was taking out the trash." "Good," the shorter one said, and the way he said it made good feel like a threat. "Are you experiencing technical difficulties today?" the taller one asked. "Telecommunications, static, time slippage." "Time what?" "Thank you," the shorter one said. He reached into his jacket. I flinched. He pulled out a business card and held it up between pinched fingers. It was the wrong size, a bit too long. There was a logo on it that made my eyes water when I tried to focus on it. The rest was blank. "We will return," he said. "Don't be difficult." They were already walking down the stairs when he said it, not looking back. I leaned into the hall and listened. No footsteps, no door at the bottom of the stairs, no car outside. That night it rained hard. When I looked out the window, I saw them across the street, standing like punctuation marks under the busted streetlight. The Trilby brim shed rain in a sheet. The other man didn't have a hat. Neither used an umbrella. People hurried past. No one looked at them. A bus came and went. They did not get on. They did nothing at all but face my window, heads tilted slightly like a pair of compass needles, pointing true north. By morning, they were gone. My phone said I had no missed calls and 47 new voice memos with titles I don't remember making. Test, Mic Test, Untitled, Untitled 2, all recorded between 2 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. When I tapped the first one, I expected more static. Instead, I heard my own bedroom, the soft creak of the radiator, the intermittent drip from the kitchen sink, the distant elevator motor, and underneath all of that, like a floor below a floor, breathing. Two people breathing in and out, almost in sync. Occasionally a whisper, my name, again and again. Soft, weirdly careful, like someone practicing how to pronounce me. I deleted them. The trash didn't empty. I powered the phone off. It turned itself back on. I stopped going out for a couple of days. Told my boss I was sick. In the morning, I'd make coffee and watch the street. In the afternoon, I'd watch the hallway through the peephole. Suit men would appear and disappear like a repeating error. Not constantly. Just often enough to make me doubt the empty spaces. At the diner on the corner, they took the booth by the window and never ordered anything. When a server brought a menu, they pressed the laminated page flat with both hands and then looked up like they were waiting for applause. When I watched long enough, I noticed they were studying the other customers, like actors memorizing blocking, learning how to lift a mug, how to wipe a face with a napkin, how to laugh without moving your eyes. They didn't blink. When the rain started again, the waitress closed the window and turned on the neon sign. They turned their heads at exactly the same moment, smiles like copy-paste. I tried knocking on my neighbor's door to ask if she'd noticed them. She opened right away, TV blaring behind her, and smiled distractedly in the way people do when they're bracing for a religious pitch. Do you ever see two guys in suits out here? I asked. What guys? She said by reflex. In black suits, like old-fashioned. They stand outside sometimes. She stared at me blankly. Then her eyes slid past me down the hall and she said, "Oh, I love your jacket," even though I wasn't wearing one. I laughed to break the tension. The laugh came out a half second after I felt it leave me, like I was listening to myself on a delay. When I closed my door, the lock made a sound I'd never heard before, a hollow clack like an empty jar tapping glass. The night it got worse, my microwave clock said 3:13. I woke up on my back, you know when you're sure someone's in your room even before you open your eyes? That. The air felt heavy, the way it does right before a thunderstorm. The radiator wasn't creaking anymore. The building had gone quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that isn't a lack of sound, but a pressure. I opened my eyes. They were there, silhouettes at the foot of my bed, black on black. When you're a kid and you imagine strangers in your room, you imagine them fidgeting, breathing, being human. These two were as still as mannequins, stored too long in a cold warehouse. Then, in perfect agreement, like a mirror breaking, they tilted their heads to the right, at the exact same angle, at the exact same speed. Their smiles were there and not there, the way a shadow is there and not there in a room with flickering light. "We told you not to look," they whispered. Two voices, one sound, not coming from the distance where their bodies were, but blooming up right next to my head, past my ear, where a person would lean to tell a secret. The words didn't hit my hearing first. They slid under it. I tried to sit up. My body felt like that dream where you run and don't move. The closer one, or the one I felt closer, it was hard to tell, lifted his hand. It was a good hand, 4 fingers, a thumb, the suggestion of knuckles beneath too smooth skin. But as it rose, the wrist creaked like dry leather bending. The hand hovered above my chest, as if judging the distance by sound. "Don't be difficult," he said, in the exact same tone the shorter one had used at my door. His jaw barely moved. His lips didn't shape the words, so much as toggle them on and off. "What do you want?" I heard myself ask, and then a half second later, I heard myself ask it again. They smiled bigger, as if I'd done what they were hoping. "Memory," they said, "and your dissemination practices." The closer one's hand lowered until it rested flat on my sternum, cold. Not the cold of a hand that's been outside in November. The cold of something that has never been warm. He pressed gently like a parent soothing a panicked child, except the pressure carried a rhythm, not in my heart, not in my breaths, but between them. On, office, like tuning a radio to a station that doesn't want to be found. "What did you see?" he asked. "Lights," I said, "just lights." "What did you see?" he asked again, same timing, same cadence, same exact syllables. It didn't sound like a question anymore. It sounded like a password prompt. "Triangle," I said, not sure if that was easier for them. "And then one, then gone." "Good," they said. The cold hand pressed. The room flickered, not the lights, the room. For an instant, my bedroom folded into the hallway and then into the alley where I'd stood with garbage juice soaking my sock, and then into a long white corridor I didn't recognize, but somehow remembered from a dream I'd never had. Doors without handles, a buzzer like a distant fly, the smell of hot pennies. "Who did you tell?" they asked. "My account," I said. "I posted. No one else." "Who did you tell?" they asked again. "My sister," I lied, because something in me wanted to throw them off. "I called her." The cold pressure lifted. Both heads tilted in the other direction, as if considering. The nearer one leaned so close, I could see the pores that weren't there. Up close, the skin looked like a high-resolution texture applied over a shape. Too uniform, no tiny scars, no randomness. "You do not have a sister," he said, and for the first time there was an intonation I recognized, something like curiosity. I tried to move my arms. Nothing. "Stop it," I said, and then stop it again, my own voice on a delay. Between my own words, a third voice slid in, whispering my name. They watched my mouth like a teacher watches a student sound out letters. "We told you not to look," they said again. Softer, and this time I heard something else threaded through it, a whisper on a whisper. "We told you not to be seen." The lights, my bedside lamp, the street light, the microwave clock, bleeding through the doorway, shivered. Not flickered. Shivered in place, like light has nerves. Then the room went dark, and I was falling, not physically, falling like a page turned too hard, like the story couldn't hold itself together anymore. There was a click, the gentle metal click of a recording beginning, and a voice from very far away said, "Begin." When I woke again, it was morning. The microwave said 7:13. The apartment looked the way I leave it when I'm trying to look like I have my life together. Blanket folded at the end of the bed, water glass on the nightstand, phone plugged in and fully charged. My chest ached in a way that felt like nothing and everything. There were 82 new voice memos. I didn't press play right away. I went to the window first. The street was normal, people walking dogs, garbage truck clanking, someone yelling at a kid to put on a jacket. The men in black were not there. The diner booth stood empty and wet-looking in the morning light. I made coffee with hands that wouldn't quite stop shaking. Then I sat on the edge of my bed and tapped the first memo. At first it was silence. Not silence, the opposite. The subtle life sound of a space with a person in it. My breaths, the radiator. My sheets rustling when I moved. Then softly, my name. Not the way a friend says it to get your attention, the way you say a new word to get the shape of it right in your mouth. Two voices, one slightly lower. They repeated my name again and again, like trying different sizes of a key in the same lock. On the 10th memo, there was something else. The gentle crackle of measured exhale, a thumb sliding off a microphone. "Begin," one of them said from far away. Static rolled, rose, flattened. My name, again. On the 20th memo, I heard my own voice say, "What do you want?" And then half a second later, I heard myself say it again. And between the two, there was a sound like someone touching a cold window with a warm palm. On the 35th memo, I said, small, "I'll delete the post." Something like approval rustled. On the 49th, there was a noise so close, it made me turn my head in my empty room. Teeth clicking together, experimental. On the 67th, they whispered, "We told you not to be seen." By the time I got to the last one, my coffee was cold and my legs were numb. I hit play and heard nothing at all for a long time. Then the sound of my apartment door opening gently on hinges I'd never gotten around to oiling. Then the click of shoes on my hallway. Slow, measured, the rhythm from my dream. 3 steps, a pause, a 4th offbeat. The last thing on the last recording was a laugh. Not mine, not theirs, but like mine had been layered under theirs and run through a filter that stripped out whatever makes human sound feel alive. I deleted them all. I deleted my post. I deleted my account. I pulled the SIM and broke it with a pair of pliers. I put the phone in the freezer because I read somewhere that helps, as if cold could slow something that doesn't run on heat. I didn't sleep that night or the next. It didn't matter. When my head dipped forward, I dreamed doors without handles and long white halls and a smell like hot pennies. I started seeing them again, not constantly, just enough. Across the street, checking their pockets at the same time, in the reflection of the diner window while the booth sat empty, standing under the bus stop, getting rained on because umbrellas are for people who care about wet. Once I saw them in a place they shouldn't be. A photo my friend posted of a concert from 3 years ago. In the crowd, 2 black-suited figures not looking at the stage, not moving with the mass. No one else noticed. I didn't comment. I thought about DMing her and asking if she remembered them, but I didn't. I don't DM anymore. A week later, the landlord slid a notice under my door about replacing the locks. At the bottom, in pencil too hard, someone had written, "We appreciate your cooperation." I moved 2 months ahead of my lease anyway. I told myself it was for work. I told myself it was because the upstairs neighbor finally fixed her TV, and the sudden quiet unnerved me. I told myself a lot of things. Yesterday, my new phone, the one I swore I'd only use for maps and banking, buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. I don't know why I do this to myself, but after a minute I listened. Static at first. Then my name. My name. Repeated with care. By 2 voices trying very hard to make their mouths do the right thing. "Oh. We are pleased," one of them whispered, and the word pleased came out like a dog and wearing shoes. All wrong, but triumphant. Then, after a pause long enough to make me think the message was over, the other voice said, in that out-of-sync way, "We told you not to look." The call had no timestamp. The call had no number. The voicemail app didn't have a delete button anymore. I closed the phone and put it in a drawer. It kept buzzing for a while, like an animal scratching to be let out. I've stopped telling this to people. The one time I tried, my friend nodded too quickly. The nod of someone waiting for you to finish so the world can be normal again. When I said, "Men in Black," he laughed like a release valve and said, "Like the movie?" And I heard 2 voices laugh with him, one old and one very new. A month after I moved, I got an envelope in the mail with no stamp. Don't know how it got there. Inside was a business card, same wrong size as before. The logo looked different this time, as if my brain had learned to see a little more of it. Under the logo, in letters that were almost letters, was a single word, cooperative. I burned it in the sink. The ash made shapes on the porcelain that looked like a floor plan. Long halls, doors with no handles. I scrubbed and it didn't come off. I know what you're going to say. That I need sleep, that I need help, that I need to stop feeding it by paying attention. I know. And I am trying. I keep the curtains closed at 1:13 a.m. I don't answer knocks. I nod at neighbors and let their eyes slide off me. When it rains, I don't look out at the street. But sometimes I'll be in line at the grocery store and feel it. A tiny pressure change, like a plane, taking off inside my chest. I'll turn my head and there, 2 aisles down, will be 2 men in black suits, considering a display of oranges with extreme interest, as if the instructions they've been given are, observe produce. Human behavior includes choosing fruit. They'll pick one up, turn it, put it back. Their hands will be careful, not because they care about bruising, but because they're memorizing what careful looks like. They won't look at me. They don't have to. They've already been in my room. They've already practiced my name until it fits. At night, when I do sleep, I only dream one thing. I'm in a room the size of a gymnasium. White lights humming overhead. The floor is painted with lines like a court. There's a door on the far wall with no handle. I can hear rain. I can hear breathing. I can hear my own voice on a delay saying, "Hello?" My phone is in my hand, the screen black like an eye. I raise it to take a picture, and the screen shows me a live view of the room from an angle I can't be standing at. In the view, I'm already turning. In the view behind me, 2 men in black tilt their heads in perfect unison. "Begin," a voice says, from far away. And the recording clicks on. And on the recording, clear and close and careful, 2 voices repeat my name over and over and over until the syllables stop meaning me at all and become only the sound a door makes when it's finally opening. Thanks for listening. I really enjoyed putting this story together for you. If you liked it, hit that like button, subscribe for more stories, and share it with someone who's into this kind of stuff. See you next time.